What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy, Papa Roo, coming at you. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you all. I hope that your evening is about as beautiful as mine is. And I just wanted to just come on in and just share some of the things that I have promised I would do, giving back to our community, our people, our nation. While we stand in times of trouble, fussing, fighting, breaking up, families that are in despair, and it looks like there's no headway. Looks like there is no answers on the horizon. But I'm going to do what I can do, and that is give back to a community that gave to me when I was a young man. Well, wisdom of advice from elders, just to help the youth to try to figure out this crazy world. And I know that, today, the breakup of families, the lack of elders and wise wisdom that can be given to the youth, they're left out on their own. Sad to say, there are young, really immature adults having children that just don't have the way of raising up a child. But I intend on at least giving, at my 60 years of age, something back to a community that possibly can help and motivate and encourage each person out here. So I want to get on this topic right here that we're talking about, will the war end between the modern man and modern woman? And it's sad to say that I see more of this. And just here in the last 5 years or so, this tongue wrestling match, this debate, argument amongst sexes that our people have taken on to infiltrate into our families and our relationships, and believing that there's an equal component to, man and woman. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you all, because I just want to just give you all some words of wisdom. How do we get back on track as men and women and loving one another and just trying to build from there? Very simple, very simple. I'm not one to claim that I got all the answers, but I can tell you this right here. When I was a lost man back in my day when I was younger, there's some truths I had to find out later on in life, which we as a people don't talk about much. Something simple as rules, roles of engagement when it comes to relationships. And I know we live in a crazy world called damn Erica. Put the D in front of America, capitalize the E, damn Erica, where she has influenced many of our people into believing that there's an equal right of abilities and capabilities of the sexes. In this country, we can be what we want to be and label ourselves wherever we want to label. And we got lost into the mix of that. And I find that we missed the number one thing that we as our ancestors used to believe in, and that is a greater creator. To keep things, simple and not this hocus pocus of religion and how people will, manipulate and use it for their own selfish gain. But I come to understand over the years, my 60 years of being on this earth, that everything starts with the belief of the most powerful source that exists on this earth. I mean, if we really look at and think about it, we have the universe, we have, the earth and the galaxies, something that has been put and set on a foundation of laws, that everything can, just stay in order in a structure based upon the power that be that keeps it from colliding and disrupting how it was created to be. How is it that we as human beings today have lost track of that? That this power, that this, some say energy, some say vibration, some say magnetic field, whatever you want to say, but we as human beings have gotten away from the foundations of rules and roles. The animal kingdom's got to follow it. The insect kingdom's got to follow it. The mammal kingdom, the plant kingdom, all of these kingdoms have to follow rules and regulations. Even on earth, we follow man's law. A system that we live in that they created, a civilization said, you all have to follow. And they brought us into this civilization. They took us to their schools to taught us, to indoctrinate us. We had to study and read and take exams and tests and all that. And we've grown to watch their TV stations, read their newspapers, and listen to their medias that have brought us to a belief that we are something greater than what we actually are. And how is that? I mean, if we really stop to think about what we fight amongst each other, they told us that is how it's supposed to be. We got words out here now, we talk about toxic relationships. We talk about, the alpha male, females. We talk about, the equality of sexes. We talk about all of these things, but we don't even understand roles and rules and regulations, how we as a people should even live. But we get up every morning, we go work for, the masters, and we work for those bosses that have rules already established for us. Tell us when to get up to go to work. Tell us how much they're going to pay us. Tell us when you got to get off to work. We'll even call you up and tell you they dismiss you and fire you, or they going to downsize and lay you off. I mean, this is what a society that we live in. And we believe that what they taught us from the infant stage all the way up to now, that there are truths that we battle and debate against each other. How crazy is that? How is it that we've lost way of some of the most simplistic forms of life, and yet we can't even get along with each other as man and woman? How is it that we think that a man is the same as a woman and a woman is the same as a man, when in actuality, the difference in how we are is what makes us powerful? We have gotten caught into a society where it's become so dysfunctional. We see our children suffering and we'll choose not to do anything about it. We would rather perpetuate a lie to continue on believing what we think is right when in actuality is wrong. How is that? How is it that we as a people live our lives and watch it just unfold in disarray, in despair? We fall into depressions. We fall into, these low parts of life, and not consider the fact that if we tapped into the universal law, we'd be okay. Take it from me. If anybody knows about living in the dark, I would be the first one to scream and say, I'll never go back. But I had to understand it when I came out of my 20s and I changed my life, and I turned around and realized that, man, there's got to be a better way of doing things. And when you really get down to studying your behavior and seeing the consequences that you suffer, you begin to make change and begin to see different results and outcomes. But many of us are stuck because we were never handed over rules, guidance, structure. A lot of us was born into chaos. A lot of us was brought up with single parents. A lot of us were passed on curses in our lives that we just can't even change. And so we receive that baton from our parent, our families, that curse that we then go and follow and walk our days out and pass it on to our children. Isn't that true? And how do we get out of a dysfunction relationship? Man and woman striving, struggling, straining, trying to survive in a situation that they think that both are supposed to think like each other and operate and act like each other, instead of accepting the differences and realizing that both sides, the opposing sides, actually can become one and powerful, man and woman. You see, some of the saddest parts of society is that even when our beautiful sisters, mothers, aunties fought for higher education, getting into workforces, little did they know that they would become the very thing that they say they would not become. And that's like man. I mean, think about it. You fight to get into a system that is ran by man and you become it. You know, if anybody knows anything, I'm going to give you an example. We talk about sports. And in the 80s, in the 80s and the early 90s, women started to get more involved into sports and wanted to be in sports just like boys were doing. And don't you find it ironic that as more and more women got into male sports, they became more masculine? Isn't that interesting? Haven't you even noticed that even when women got into a man's world of work, not to say there's anything wrong with it, but the fact of it is that taking on the behaviors on how you operate in a system that was controlled by man, created by man, rules by man, you have to perform like man. And now all of a sudden, then you hear women talking about their alpha females. That our system that is in place, a civilization that they created, taught us through their indoctrination of this education system, this is how things are supposed to be. Now, I'm a man that's very well traveled, and I travel the world, and I really enjoy looking into cultures and how different cultures are than here in America. And we can fight and argue and say that this is the way that life is supposed to be. But when you step into other cultures, it's amazing how different that they operate. It's amazing that how different the family network is, the family unit. Our roles are so specific and defined that even men and women can get along with each other because they understand that there are things that men can do that women can't do, and things women can do that men just can't do. But if they bond together and come together as one, you can get the job done more efficiently. But here in society in America, we find that our people in a culture that is dismantling leaps and bounds on self-destruction are at its wits' end in knowing how to recover to bring back man and woman into a oneness. You know, I used to be that young guy that I used to think that, life was all about me. I thought I knew everything. I thought I was the one to be right until the day came where I realized I ain't know nothing. And me not knowing anything, I had to revamp my thinking. I had to realign myself up with, I found that the natural, the one who created all nature, that there is a universal law that we can live off of that helps us and keeps us from self-destructing. Now, I know religion has taken over and they have pimped the game of words. They have turned around and used it for their own selfishness. But what I find is that these rules that are in place were there always, all from the beginning of time, to help me. I realized like words like sin means nothing more than operating out of the rules that were placed before you to keep you from self-destructing so that you can live a life that you can prosper in which you were created for your purpose. This is the whole simplistic thing of life. And if people shift it and move it and try to make it their own, it caused a catastrophe. Let me give you an example. We know that in society, we'll use just the plant kingdom. Plants know what they do. They create it, and it's very easy. They know what they do, what it's created to do, and that is to produce. The animal kingdom knows it. The insect kingdom knows it. The mammal kingdom knows it. Everything in this universe, whether it's the stars that combust and bring forth new stars, know that everything is meant to reproduce. This is the most simplest purpose that we should know, but we complicate it as human beings. We argue about whether or not abortion is right or wrong. We argue about whether or not a man can be a woman and a woman can be a man. This is what happens when you live in societies that want to stretch the bounds of what the natural universal law is and cause confusions and cause chaos and then cause devastation amongst nations, communities of people. But I want our brothers and sisters to understand something. We are a people that have been very well connected to the universe, to the natural power, the source, the most high, if you want to call it that. They say God. But if you say the most high, we mean the most powerful source or the most powerful entity that exists, that all else depend upon, rely on. And if we move ourselves outside of that, then we happen to suffer the consequences that happen. And how is that? As like I stated before, when you're created and there are rules and set in place for you so that you don't self-destruct, but when you move outside of that, you have to suffer the consequences because you are not thriving in the purpose that you were created. Let me make it a little bit more simple. If a man and woman already knows they were put on this earth to produce, a man has more muscle mass. He's able to endure more physical labor than a woman on the average. A woman realized that she cannot go and lift and tug and pull just like a man. But she has something even as powerful like a man does. And she has a wit to understand that her power is through her nurturing, her giving, her love, her peace, versus a man is consuming, being a masculine entity, which brings forth wrath, anger, stress, all of these things that masculine and feminine that oppose each other, but actually brought together, they can balance each other out. But how do we as a people get our young adults to understand that we are different and we're not the same, but we can build off each other? You know, it's one of the toughest things I found when I was younger, when I got married, my first marriage, and we fought and argued all the time, arguing about nothing, about belief systems that came from, other sources, people, family members, education, and did nothing but destroy a marriage because you sat at odds. But let me just share with you that if you put everything in right perspective and understand there is an order to everything, and in that order, if you can find it, you're going to bring peace in your life. Very simple, but very hard, because our old schools of thoughts, our old schools of thoughts is what's destroying us from changing those old mindsets into bringing on new beliefs. This is dangerous when it comes to people who believe and will ride out the rest of their lives believing that they know it all or they got it. Not willing to give a chance to open up their minds to allow something else new in. This is where we have to really lean on even the old ancient writings when it says that continue to renew your mind so that you may prove what that is good and acceptable to the will of the Most High. What does that mean? You never hold on to old schools of thoughts because somebody told you that information. You read it somewhere. You're not an innovator that just came up with your own idea. These are things that have been passed down from generation to generation, even from other nations. That sometimes even belief systems of how people live and operate do not apply to you because you are a total different nation of people or a total different, have a total different background. Not all answers are right when it comes to the whole human race, when it comes to how you do things in a right perspective and order. This is something that is very dangerous that we have adopted from other nations of people. Can't you see how even coming into America, many other nations of people, of different immigrants, of race of people, come with their cultures and they live by it and they don't drift far from it. And they will stand off to the side and have a disregard with what other Americans may do here in America, but they're going to hold on to their own cultures because it's detrimental. Now, I've used to say this before is that we have been taken out of our element. Now, if people say that we're from here, America originally, we all know that, by those historians or the anthropologists or the geologists know that human race started in the motherland of Africa. That is our setting, closer to the equator, closer to a warm climate. But when you get further away, we find what? You get in colder climates. We find even that if you don't even, the melanin of the skin doesn't get enough vitamin D, you will fall into more of a psychotic mental have a disturbance to where can't even function properly. You know the old saying, the cabin fever, when it's during wintertime and you're stuck indoors because you can't get enough sun rays or vitamin D. This is what happened within our own societies. Have you ever thought about even in the northern plains of America? Why is the most crimes in Chicago, Detroit, New York? Why is it, Cleveland, Ohio? These are probably the most highest crime infested places, especially when spring comes around, because the vitamin D is so low that our people can't even function around each other and gets very upset when you're around your own people and become a problematic to the whole community. And so I say this right here, the war between a man and a woman must stop. And the only way we can do that is understanding that how we were created was so different that we have to find out the differences that we have. How do we bring them together? How do we build off of that? Because until then, we'll war against each other, believing the one is right and the other one is wrong. Brothers and sisters, let me tell you this right here. Coming from this old man, 60 years old, we can do it. And there's hope because we have a hope and we have a faith. We have a hope and a faith beyond any other people on the earth. We just lost it. And I believe without a shadow of a doubt that if we go back to the universal laws of understanding that it was put in place for us to operate on this earth, understanding there is one greater than you. Number two, that you have a purpose to reproduce. Number three, the difference between you and the opposite, male and female, and how to bond and build off of that. We can't get that. We'll never get anywhere. Roles. What about roles? If anybody got questions, anybody want to respond, look, the link is going to be in the chat because there is a thing called roles. We have lost that. We got into a place where, because of society and the breakup of the family, young men don't have father figures, raised by mothers, taking on the habits and the behaviors of moms, don't even have a clue how to be a man. Young ladies having the absence of fathers, only being raised by mamas, taking on the habits and the behaviors of mothers, don't even have a clue how to deal with a man. All because of the fact that we decided to live a life without rules, bonding together as one. We decided that we want to live our life in oneness, by ourselves, do what we do, and play games with each other. This is the devastations we've caused within our own community. And it's sad. Very sad that we can't even get past first base and realizing that what the universal Most High have done was to give us a sheet of instructions that we simply can follow so that we don't cause devastation. But yet, what have we done? We have hoarded each other out. We have caused bastard children to be born. We have gotten in places of low places, depressions, anxieties, where we're using drugs, alcohol. We've gotten so low that we self-destruct, that we destroy our own family members, that we have such a lack of love that we can even murder our own babies. This is where we are at in society. And yet we keep on keeping on thinking that we'll be okay. And we pass that curse on down to our next children. Isn't that true? I mean, am I right? Can I get an amen in the chat? Does anybody agree what I'm saying? Because who else is going to say this? I can go on and pick up the mic from Kevin Samuels and sit here and, talk about the 1-3% and have hundreds of thousands of people listen who are upset when he was never talking about the 97% of the people. How is that we can go ahead and just continue to pick up the baton and run and argue and fight against each other because we see it all over social media, especially with our elderly people, our people of age, mid 40s on up? When are we going to stop passing on the curses to our young people, talking about the opposite sex? When are we going to go ahead and start talking to our young men and our young women and tell them, stop it? Do you know? Let me share this with you all. Do you know the ancient writings spoke of things that's happening today? I'm seeing right now the disdain that man has for woman and woman has for man. Do you know scriptures talk about the day will come when men will become lovers of self? Do you know what that means? Men will love each other and women will love each other more than they would love the opposite of what God created, all because of their own lust of desires to have it their way. Let me read that. Let me read that to y'all because it's powerful, you all. It's powerful. And I'd like to share with people that be careful of how you talk about the opposite sex. Think about this right here before I get into it. Women used to call men dogs for years. Men call women bees for years. Don't you find it ironic that in today's society, women best friend is a dog and a man's best friend is a dog? You see the young ones now, everybody's got dogs. You've been calling this woman a female bitch for so long that you now take up and have dog. Now they say the woman now, that was old Kevin Samuels, buy a dog and die alone. That you called a man a dog for so long, or you called a woman a female dog for so long, that you can rub up on, take care of, walk after, pick up the crap, have to feed and spend all this money on a dog, then get along with one that is your own kind. Isn't that something? I find that really crazy because it's nuts how we've become. Let me go ahead and pass this on to you right here. Let me share my screen. This is something very interesting that I think you're gonna kind of understand what I'm saying. Listen to this right here. This is the issue that we have as a people Um, but this is ancient writings from years, thousands of years ago. Listen to this right here, Second Timothy. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetousness, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affections, truth breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God, having a form of godliness, but deny the power thereof. From such turn away. This said right here, family, men will become lovers of self. You got to be careful what you say and what you speak, because what you speak will come to pass. You have a disdain for the opposite sex, you better believe you're going to begin to love your own, because you're going to begin to admire and thinking they're better than. And this is where we're at. And now we sit here and suffer. And so, to my young brothers and sisters, I give you this word of advice from old Papa Roo. Seek what that is great in you and outside of you. It's all connected together. It's a thing called consciousness. It's a spirit. We know we have spirits of good and evil, or you want to call it attitudes. But if you seek that voice which is within you, it's in you. You know the truth, but you've put it to a side. You ignore it and you do what you want to do. But it speaks loud. But we've gotten to the point where we ignored it, that we got deafening ears. We can't even see the truth if it was right in our face. But if you can acknowledge there is something greater than yourself and allow that to teach you, even show you who you really are, not what they told you you are, the labels, the titles, all these things and the images that you think you are. But when you get back down to the basics of life and realize that you are a man or a woman, and in that, you two come together to reproduce, just like the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the mammal kingdom, the universe is meant to produce. And if you stay within the confines of the laws of this universe, your life will be healthy. You won't suffer as much as you think you would. You will have a better and grander life than you ever had. And I had to wake up to that. A man who prospered from being a low blow Joe who had nothing in his 20s until I realized it was time for change. And so with that, I don't want to belabor this whole issue. I wanted to just drop this gold nugget. Drop me a line at dearpaparoo@gmail.com if you want to ask a question. You are more than welcome to call in whenever I come here. I'm going to be doing this Monday through Friday, coming up with different subject matters, just trying to be one of out of many who is just trying to wake up our people and bring back the truth so that we can have a better life, not just for ourselves, but for our children's children's. This is your man, not your boy, Papa Roo, coming at you. Hey, I'm out, family. Peace and blessings to each and every one of you. I am out.